share her on the phone. Welcome, everybody. It is Saturday, November 30th. And this is the NGSC Sports NBA show. I'm your host, Ralph Garcia, straight up out of Clarksville, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. Of course, got my boy, the co-host, Jay, Mr. Jordan Rhea. What up, Jay?
What's going on, Ralph? We got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, good thing. I like the way we doing this because it's like something continue. Always something to talk about. Please remember the website. Oh, before we remember the website, it is November the 30th. 37 years ago today, I was at Erlanger Hospital in Chattanooga, Tennessee, for the birth of my firstborn, Rafael Joseph Robinson Garcia. He goes by Joe. I named him after my childhood best friend. Shout out to my son. Happy 37th, son. See you soon. Remember the website. It is ngscsports.com, where you catch all of your current content. Log out. Oh, by the way, shout out. We got a season 2 preview up for the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League. The season started today. We at NGSC Sports, we have the privilege of covering the Boston franchise, the Boston Fleet. They just got their new names. They got their logos. Unfortunately, the Fleet did go down in the opener. They were visiting the Toronto Scepters with the 3-1 win. But we look forward to the season, and John Doucette in Lowell, Massachusetts, covering the Boston Fleet. Mike Drakelich give us Pittsburgh Steelers at Cincinnati Bengals game day preview. Mike's our guy, of course, in Pittsburgh. Let's see. Sammy Sportface. So look, Sammy Sportface is a big Caitlin Clark fan, okay? There's a lot of fans, too, and I ain't hating on her because, damn, the girl's moving mountains. He gives us Undisputed Sports Person. I couldn't even say it. Undisputed Sports Person of the Year, Caitlin Clark. Mike Drakelich comes back with his Pitt Panthers Boston College Eagles game day preview. I'm thinking that game's like about now. I don't know. I'll have to pay attention. All that in the morning. gscsports.com, where we never stop. Of course, we talking basketball here. NBA, and I'm showing stuff on screen. I ain't even supposed to show. Coming on the air. We ain't even ready the right way, Jay. Damn. I got to start sharing this show. But the problem is, I wonder how does this, I better do it on here. So, Jay, what's up, my brother? You all right?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm doing good. I just had a quick family trip, celebrated a cousin's birthday. So it's good to do that. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I like the way you called it. You called it a day trip. Sound like yeah. But me, I got what's called a spinal epidural spinal injection. Uh-huh. So like the last show you and I did, I was in so much pain, but you couldn't see it. And I wasn't doped up. No, don't do that anymore. Just celebrated 12 years clean and sober. I wish it was 22 years or 32 years, but hey, got 12 years now. But life is good. But for us, of course, the first month of the NBA season is now upon us, or has been upon us, Jay. And you got a nice topic this evening. Winners and losers 1 month into the season. Real curious as to who you think. Go ahead, Jay, hit it.
I think I want to start in the West. Just a couple I want to point out. I know we're going to talk about them later as well, but the Golden State Warriors, obviously expectations are super low from coming into the season. They are currently 12-6, third in the West, so that's pretty good. Steph Curry still looks like an MVP level player when he wants to. Even at the age of, I believe he's about to turn 36. His game is aging like fine wine. You know, he's not a super athletic guard, but he can still put the ball in the basket no matter where he is. You know, Draymond's looking like a DPOY for the first time in a few years. You know, you got your key, role players. You got Brandon Podziemski, Kuminga coming off the bench. Andrew Wiggins is looking good again. You know, so I think they're a team that deserves a lot of just kind of respect for where they are right now. You know, given, I mean, geez, they lost their second best player in Klay Thompson. You know, you trade away Chris Paul, which I mean, that wasn't a big loss, but he was still kind of leader for the team besides Steph Curry. And the depth on the team overall is pretty good. But another thing we're going to get into later, they have some moves to make.
Yeah. I was just sharing the show, listening to you. I was listening to you, so I could chime in. You talk about the winners and losers. I mean, so we had the show last year. We've been talking in the off season. We come on here for the season, and I'm sure we can both agree, Jay, that neither one of us had the Cleveland Cavaliers in the. We had the Cleveland Cavaliers in the conversation as a player, right, Jay? As a playoff team, right? Okay. If you tell me the Cavs are not going to be a playoff team, I'm asking you what you're smoking on, right? But if you told me the Cavs would be 17-3 after 20 games, I would ask you again, what are you smoking on? But Jay, they 17-3, and yeah, great start, but they're balling. They're playing good.
Yeah, they're playing good. I mean, they're definitely a winner for their strong start to the season.
You got a butt? Give me a butt. You got a butt? I want to hear that.
Questions. There's several questions for the team. You've lost 3 games so far. One against Boston Celtics. That was expected. But you've lost back-to-back games against the 7th seed Atlanta Hawks. Okay? You should be able to put this team away. And I watched their game yesterday, and they did not look like they were putting in the effort. And they had just played them on Wednesday as well. So I think they're starting to come back down to reality a little bit. They're going to go harder.
I was going to ask
you. Obviously Donovan Mitchell's looking good. I know he's getting some MVP buzz. Darius Garland's looking good. Jared Allen, Mobley's looking good too. I think they're just getting off to a hot start. I don't want to compare them to, say, the 2014-15 Atlanta Hawks, but I feel like that's where it could go. You obviously just have
hold on. Okay. Just the fact that you said, man, you really put it in perspective right there. Think about it. Because yes, truth of the matter, everybody, is look, every year there's a story at the start of the season. Whether it's good or bad, we pay attention to the good, unless the bad is huge, like a big player going down early. But people in Cleveland, I have a couple of people on Facebook that don't get excited. Y'all had a great start. You've had a great start to the season. But I was going to say what you said, that Cleveland probably playing back to the pack now. And let's see what happens as it moves up. You hit some stuff on the head there. I like that. Yeah. I mean, Mitchell can't do it all by himself. He just can't do it by himself.
No, and I think the thing is, there's at least enough of a difference looking at the standings where they're probably going to have home court advantage, come the playoffs. That's perfectly fine. They're not going to drop below 4th, realistically.
You would hope after this start.
Unless something absolutely terrible happens.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, Boston's still there. And we saw what happened last year. The exact same teams. Boston beat them in 5 games.
Hey, is it me, Jay? Is it me, Jay? Or I got to say it like this, too. Or is Boston 16-3 start really quiet? I don't hear a lot about it.
You know what? You don't hear a lot about it because, one, they didn't even have Kristaps Porzingis until I think it might have been earlier this week.
Yeah, just a few games ago. Yeah,
they looked perfectly fine without him, And you have to give them the credit. Losing him, I believe it was the first round of the playoffs. Was it the first round of the playoffs last year? Yeah. So they already kind of had a game plan set for Porzingis being out, and that led them to a championship. And now you start the first 15 or so games of the season without him, and they're looking perfectly good.
Yeah.
So I think now that he's back, it's just going to be super easy for him.
I'd say a quiet 16-3. I could also say an expected 16-3. It's not like we would have said, well, it's 19 games to 16-3. Oh, it should have been 18-1, should have been 17-2, should have been 15. Not really much of a difference. 16-3. Not a surprise. But I'm gonna give you what I'm gonna call on your winners and losers topic. I'm gonna add a word, 2 words. Feel good winners. I got some feel good winners. You know who feels good to me winning right now? Because I'm just going to, don't get all long and drawn out, old man. Let me tell you who make me feel good. Who's a feel good? Orlando Magic. That's a feel good winner right there. Because think, one of the things we've seen in this NBA season is the cream of the crop, or the usual cream of the crop. It's not the cream of the crop anymore. And this young talent, and one of my feel goods is coming on that. This young talent, loving. Think about it, man. LeBron and some of the other guys, Steph, some of these guys we watch and idolize and marveled at for years, they're fading into the last years of the sunset. And this new crop of young stars. And I always wonder, I've been watching the NBA for 6 decades. So it's like I've watched the change, the next new star, the next new stars, the next new star, the next new star, and it just keeps happening. So now we're in that phase, right? You look at the Houston Rockets. Yo, dude, they're second in the West. I seen that. I said, let me study a little bit because I want to sound smart, man, when I get on with Jay. So first thing I do, look at standing. I did that out like, oh, what up? Rockets are second. This is a team. I'm in Houston for 3 years for a team that sucks. James Harden, pretty much, his last year in Houston, you already knew it was bailout time for James. He was just playing it out. So it was a bad feel for the fans. And then he left and bottom fell out in Houston. And it feels so good because when you suck, when you're really bad in the NBA and you stink and you're one of the worst teams in the league through 3-4 years in a row, you're going to get draft picks, right? It just doesn't work out all the time. Just because you're the worst team and you get 3-4 top 3 picks in a row don't mean you're going to be smart enough to make the right pick. Houston done made the right picks. They're another one of my feel goods. Do I have another feel good? Hold on. Do I have another feel good? I don't feel good. I'll tell you who I don't feel good about. I don't feel good about Sacramento Kings. Why? And it goes to show, right? It goes to show. You can, as a GM and front office, you in your mind can say, okay, guys, me and you, Jay, right? Let's get a plan with the team, right? So we got 2 guys. We're going to get a third. Well, we got 1 and we're going to get 2 more to form a 3. And when you look at the 3 in Sacramento on paper, right, you're like, that's a 3. What, Sabonis? DeRozan? Look at Fox is like, this boy, Aaron Fox, man, that boy. JD 9-11. So it's what? I mean, you tell me something because you know better than me.
I just don't think, well, for starters, the big 3 era of basketball is dying out. That's very clear.
I hope so. But never a fan of it.
You've seen that with teams like Boston, or not. I suppose you could mention Boston, but Denver, the Bucks in 2021. But I'm just not seeing it with the Kings. DeRozan, he's a great player. Fox, another great player. Sabonis, that dude's a double-double machine. But it's just not clicking.
No.
And if you look at some of these other teams in the West, there are some surprises. Obviously the Rockets, the Warriors, as I mentioned, even the Clippers without Kawhi. So there's just not enough playoff spots in the West. It's that simple. And I mean, they're in 12th place. I mean, you got the Timberwolves right above them. That's another team that's surprising for the wrong reasons.
What about the Nuggets, right? So I bring up the Nuggets because, first of all, the Joker's averaging like 30 points, I don't know, 15, 16 rebounds, 12 assists. It's like stupid numbers. So then I look and I say, well, because I like to creep. So when I go to the West, when I bring up the standings, Jay, I always bring my hand up. I like to put my hand on the screen so I can see the top teams and scroll. I don't want to see the whole thing. So when I scroll little by little and I saw Oklahoma City Thunder leading in the West like they're supposed to. Oh shit, the Houston Rockets is number 2. Golden State's holding number 3. I kept on trying. I said, damn, Denver Nuggets is 10-7. And that goes to show what you were just saying right there about this big 3, because for a while that big 3 shit was big. And somehow it's not playing anymore.
You know what? With Denver, they made a mistake. And signing Michael Porter Jr. to that was rookie max.
Yeah.
That screwed them over for years, and it's going to be very difficult for them to get out of that position. And that may cost them Jokic's prime, but we'll have to wait and see.
They're not the same team. And I'm going to bring them up, man, because, first of all, listen, we're not even going to include this team on the winners and losers because they're not even good enough to be on the losers this month, which is the Philadelphia 76ers. Whatever's happening over there, Jay, it's like 17 games, 20 games, less than 20 games into the season. It's as if nobody gives a damn anymore.
Yeah, I know we'll get into that in one of the coming segments, but
yeah.
I mean, you just kind of have to admit that it's probably a lost season now, about 20 games in.
We're not going to get into it in a moment. We're going to make that moment right now. So Jay brings us the panic meter. And the damn shame, you got to come up with a segment called a panic meter. But every month, we're going to have a panic meter. I like this, Jay. I like to have this panic meter because we see what the first month has brought us, right? The surprises that it has brought us. The Cleveland Cavaliers, Golden State Warriors supposed to be knocked out. Look at the Warriors playing the way they playing, right? I mean, so you got the Orlando Magic. Oh my God, you got these feel-good stories going on. The Houston Rockets. But it's always going to be those teams on a panic meter. Jay brings up the panic meter 1 to 5. The scale is 1 to 5, with 5 being worse. And I don't even see a 2 up in here. So, Jay, hit me.
So, Philly's super obvious. They're 5. I mean,
Philly's a 10.
You couldn't ask for a worse start to the season. I know the last time we were on, we talked about, the incident with the reporter, Paul George's injury, Maxey being out and all that. But even with them still, starting to, come back into the rotation, it's just not working, and you look at their roster, you got a bunch of aging veterans. You got guys like Kyle Lowry, Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond. And then you got guys like Caleb Martin, who came from the Miami Heat, looking nothing like he did in Miami.
Nothing like he did in Miami.
And they're just not meshing together, So we're about a quarter of the way into the season.
And here's my thing, Jay, with Philadelphia, right? Because I love it that you brought up the roster there. After Maxey, George, and Embiid, you basically didn't give me one damn name that interests me. Because Caleb Martin, like you said, who was balling Miami? I guess the sun and the palm trees did him real good. Because the snow up in Philly ain't doing shit for him. But here's the thing about Philadelphia. You would think that with these 3 guys healthy, all of a sudden, boom, they're all playing together healthy. Speaking of the big 3 that we were talking about a few minutes ago, here's a big 3 that has the talent. Here's a big 3 when healthy and playing at their best. Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey. You got a deadly 1, 2, 3. Except you got 1, 2, 3 problems. One, I'm not a GM. I'm not a scout. I'm not a Dr. J, but Paul George cannot stay healthy. He can't. Hold on, hold on. I want you. No, I'm gonna hit you with the three, so you can come. You can come back with it. One, Paul George cannot stay healthy. Two, badass baller as Tyrese Maxey is, he is not a number one option right now, and he cannot carry a basketball team if the other two big guys, 1 and 2, are not there. And last but not least, don't ever question. First of all, don't ever question the heart of Joel Embiid. Well, that brother done showed us, boy, that he'll go if you shoot him. That about he gonna dodge bullets and get hit running up and down the court because he's not coming out. He gonna play. But 7-footers are limited. Unfortunately, 7-footers are limited and they're so prone to injuries. But here's my big take here on the end, and you take it from here with the three I said. At what point do you think, in Joel Embiid's mind, he's starting to look around on this bench, inside this locker room, inside these buildings, in the hallway, in the bathroom, and saying, yo, I think I'm about tired of this shit here in Philly. And what effect that's having on everybody else.
I like that you brought that up. First, going back to Paul George, he's on the wrong side of 30. Okay. You saw his tenure in LA. The guy was injured every season. You look at his max contract he has, I believe, until he's 38. That contract increases over the next 4 years. So it's not going to get any easier for Philadelphia. And they cannot trade him, I believe, until I want to say mid-January in like a worst case scenario. For Maxey, I think he has the potential to be not the franchise player for the Sixers, but a centerpiece amongst another player.
Absolutely.
And Embiid, he wants to win. And obviously the injuries are a big factor in him missing games. But when is the point that Philadelphia says, hey, maybe we should move on from Embiid? And if you look at their record, 3-14. Yeah, they've only played 17 games. Most teams are about 20 games in. Should they call it a season and try to get Cooper Flag? It may not be morally the best thing for them to do, but they have a very low chance of making the playoffs.
No, but like you said, no, Jay, you're right. Like you said, look, as badass as Embiid is right here, it come a point, I said from Embiid's point of view, also from Philly's point of view. Philly might be like, look, man, it might be time, even for respect, out of respect for the big guy, to let him move on someplace else. As far as Paul George, shit, we screwed up on that one, so that's a lost cause.
Yeah.
So now you're forced to build around Tyrese Maxey. And like you said, now you got to take into consideration, as messed up as it is, do we play for Flag? Right. I mean, yeah, it's a messed up situation.
I mean, 2 of your 3 stars are aging guys who are very injury prone. I'm not saying it's the best thing for Philly to do, but if you tank and end up with Cooper Flag and Maxey, that could be a great duo to have. But that's up for Philly to decide.
Yeah, and look, just before we move on to the next team, if you go Maxey Flag next year, now Philadelphia is obviously well, you got to look for another big man. You may not find the Embiid production, but you better find a big man out there to complement these two guys, because these two young boys, they might as well be in half superstar rebuild mode, because they're not going to do much better with Maxey and Flag being the 1-2. That ain't going to work. So yeah, they're up Fifth Creek without a paddle. That's for damn sure. The other team, and I'm interested, your second team you list here with a 4, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Why the Wolves? Why a 4?
If you look, you look at the standings. They're 9-10. Okay, they're 11th in the West. not even in the playing picture right now. And it all goes back to their offseason trade of Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle, essentially. Cat has thrived in New York so far, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'll talk about that in final thoughts. But the answer is yes, sir. He has.
So you have Cat thriving in New York. I mean, you pretty much ruined the chemistry for the Timberwolves. You know, it took you a couple seasons to get that pairing of Cat and Gobert to work. You know, Ant was obviously the one, Cat was the two. You know, you could say Gobert, maybe the three, but Randall just hasn't built that chemistry with them yet. And you can definitely see it on the court. You know, and then you got Dante DiVincenzo as a piece too from the Knicks. He just hasn't fit in Minnesota either. And there are already rumors of him being a potential trade target for multiple teams. So it's kind of going back to that 22-23 season for the Wolves. They're kind of building that chemistry still. Randall's had some good games. Ant's had some good games, of course. But the chemistry is just not there yet. And it's definitely backfired. The trade's definitely backfired on them.
Well, you got me curious. Let me tell you why you got me curious with Minnesota. Because for me, I don't put Minnesota in a panic neither. Why? This is why. When the trade was made, first thing you think of it, okay, how does that trade how does that team affect each team? Obviously, with the Knicks getting called, a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, how does that make the Knicks better? And then the other question is, so how does DiVincenzo and Randall fit in now with Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves? Now, for me, if you would have asked me, what you think the Timberwolves are going to be after 20 games to start the season, I would have said 10-10, 11-9, 9-11. So for me, they are where I expected them to be, because when you took Towns off, that team fed so much off of Cat that it just messed up the whole chemistry of the team. Like you said, it just disrupted it. Yeah, so to bring Randall and DiVincenzo in, hey, yeah, and while you speak and go, I'm just going to run and get a bottle of water. Talk to him.
Right. Well, if I believe Julius Randle is a free agent this upcoming off season. And if you lose Randall, that's just going to invalidate, it's going to, invalidate the trade. You're losing your big trade target in trade piece. Randall, he's not the player Cat is, obviously. I mean, he can still do a lot on the floor, but he's just not a fit. And then obviously with DiVincenzo, the expectations were a little higher for him going to Minnesota, potential 6th man of the year candidate. But if he's going to be a trade target too, what happens if you lose them both?
And it's a good argument for both sides. I just, like I said, for me, I just thought the Wolves would be better than a 500 team.
Yeah. The problem for Minnesota is they don't have much of a future in terms of draft capital. They pretty much traded all of their draft picks for Gobert, and that's not going to do them any good. And I believe they just traded the last pick they could for, was it Rob Dillingham in the draft, or
right? Yeah.
Draft rights or draft swap, I believe. So I mean, they're very limited on what they can do for the next handful of years. So losing Randall would be a big blow, but it's more of an ownership problem that's caused all of this.
Now, until you go with the Brooklyn Nets, I gotta agree. I agree. And I'm gonna take this first with this.
Uh-huh.
As far as the Nets concerned, for me, why should they be on? By the way, seriously, I gotta ask you a question. It's gonna sound dumb, but I just want to confirm, because I really don't know for sure.
Uh-huh.
First of all, does Ben Simmons still play basketball, and he's still with Brooklyn?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, I think so. He's averaging some points, I think, maybe. Dude, I see more lowlights than highlights.
He talked a half cold cash shit sandwich before the season started about how he was ready to go. I mean, look, I'm gonna go ahead one day, and we can just paint a room and put people like Demarcus Russell, Ben Simmons, and we can mention a couple others that belong in the room by themselves. We'll put Ben Simmons. That is such a sorry. Anyway, let me get the hell away from that. But Brooklyn, yeah, panic mode because you got the Ben Simmons situation, right? And what do you have in Brooklyn? You once had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and who was the other one? Was it Kyrie?
Yeah, it was Kyrie.
On the same team. We ain't that far removed from that.
No, but I do have an interesting take on this as to why I put them at 3 on the panic meter. First of all, they are 9-11. They are 9th in the Eastern Conference, so they're in playing contention.
Which surprises me.
They were expected to be one of the worst teams this season in the entire NBA. Okay. And many teams, or, many amongst the NBA media world thought they were going to be the worst, thought they were going to be right in that Cooper flag contention. And 20 games in, you're in playing contention. These are games that you probably should have lost, Just mentioning another team here real quick. The Toronto Raptors, they are 5-15. I don't know if you've seen this picture going around, but it was a list of maybe 5 or 6 games in a row that they lost, all within maybe 4 or 5 points each game.
Damn.
They're competitive, but they're tanking. But they're doing it in a way that looks competitive, and that's what we should be seeing from the Brooklyn Nets. But the reason I have them at a 3, there's still time to recover from this. There's a lot of players on the team that are rumored to be in trade talks. Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Dennis Schroeder. So, I mean, they can definitely trade away a lot of these pieces to, you could say, save their season in terms of tanking.
Yo, that's a trip what you just said. I had to roll what you said in my mind, the part where you said, what did you say, they tanking, they were looking while looking competitive?
The Raptors are tanking appropriately, I would say.
So now we have a, so to speak, tanking where we got teams like adjusting tanking methods, tinkering with it to make it look. That's sad. That's really sad.
Well, give them credit. Give them credit. If no one's caught on to it, not a lot of people have caught on to it, it looks like they're competitive at least. But it's still a shame.
Yo, the Pelicans, man. And you know what? You got a segment. Man, I wish I would have timed this better and switched something around, but we'll get there. What the hell are the Pelicans doing, man?
Honestly, that's a great question. I don't even know if I can answer it. It's just an absolute mess in New Orleans. You signed DeJounte or trade for DeJounte Murray in the offseason, fractures his hand in the first game. I believe he just came back earlier this week. CJ McCollum spent some time out. You have the whole Brandon Ingram situation, which is that going to get resolved before the end of the season? Who knows? And then the biggest piece of all, Zion Williamson. That's another player.
We gonna get to him. We gonna get to him, but we're gonna save it. We're gonna save a damn segment.
Yeah, but it's just they're another team where you're about a quarter away through the season, and there's no coming back from the bottom. There's no way that they could get into even playing contention realistically with this team they have right now.
Yeah, it means bad luck because I mean, you get DeJounte Murray in the off season. You mentioned Brandon Ingram. I mean, those are 2 names that were supposed to be impactful for the Pelicans, along with that other guy we'll talk about in a few minutes. It's a damn shame we got to talk about him, but I promise we will. But that was a nice segment, man. I like that. Panic meter. We're gonna keep running that panic meter, and so Jay comes up with another segment. I ain't do none of this, okay? I ain't the brains behind shit. That's why I got Jordan Reed on the team, okay? Teams will move away from contention. We talked about them already. And I ain't got no problem talking about them again as I pull up their roster 14-6, second, currently second in the Western Conference, right behind. I'm talking about not second, not in second place by 3, 4, 5 games behind, right behind the West leading Oklahoma City Thunder. That's the Houston Rockets. Like I said, Jay, feel good winner, a Rocket team that sucked for several years, got some draft picks, and yo, take it, Jay.
Yeah, there are a couple of players on this team that are kind of the standouts. Obviously, Jalen Green. I believe he was drafted in 2021, came out of the G League. A lot of people, the expectations weren't great for him given the track record of G League players drafted in the NBA so far. He's proven to be a young star and core member of this team. And then obviously Alperen Şengün, another guy getting comparisons to Nikola Jokic, signed another rookie extension alongside Jalen Green. And then you got some key veterans, that I want to give a shout out to. Um, Fred Van Vliet, that dude is just getting, you can say he's getting in trouble with some of his, on the court actions with referees.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, Dylan Brooks, not a big stats guy, but definitely an energy guy.
yeah.
And then some of these other young guys, Jabari Smith Jr., Amin Thompson, so I think they have a really good young roster, but they're not a true championship contender yet. But they have the pieces to trade for,
Not only not a true championship contender yet. If you just look at the roster, I mean, you just kind of okay. We know about Jalen Green and what he was coming into the league to do. The kid is living up to the hype so far. All right, Alperen Şengün, like who? Like a lot. It's like where did this guy come from? I mean, he's had some really, really good games there in Houston. So for me, a surprise. Fred VanVleet is there. He's a veteran, a champion. He brings that veteran presence. Obviously, that's very important to the locker room and to the bench. I'm not mentioning no big names here, people. Jabari Smith Jr., okay? Who you got? Steven Adams is there. Jeff Green is there. Well, it's not like I'm bringing up deep names, and somehow this team, again, second in the West, and Jay, damn, they're playing good. And like you say, one move away.
right. And there have been several names that have been, at least in rumors, uh, Jimmy Butler, an aging veteran, don't know how much longer he's got as a top level guy. Same for Kevin Durant. Obviously, Katie's Katie. He's going to ball as long as he wants. I mean, the guy, came back from an Achilles injury and looks better than before. But, there are a lot of players, at least on this Rockets team, that could be movable, for that kind of star. Do I know which one it would be? I think it would be Jalen Green. I think of the stars on that team, he's the one that has less of a fit with the current Rockets team, but could be more attractive to potential trade candidates.
Wow. I tell you, one more piece for the Rockets. They get themselves one. That'd be fun to watch. That'd be fun to watch. And of course, there is the Golden State Warriors. I will forever be haunted as a Knicks fan on that draft night as we waited in the number 8 position and made no secret that we were going to draft Steph Curry. The Golden State Warriors, with the 7th pick in the draft, chose Steph Curry. And as they say, and they've said over and over again, in whatever point way of life, you can use this saying a lot. The rest is history. Yo, 36 years old. No, it's not the Steph of 10 years ago. And still, the 36-year-old Steph, any NBA team, any team on the planet, who would want Steph on their team? Draymond, you know what? You talk shit about Draymond all you want about his attitude and his technical fouls. The man is a hardwood basketball genius. He knows the game. He knows when to get those texts, why he gets those texts, why he does what he does, acts the way he does. But when I look again at the roster here, Buddy Hield. When Klay Thompson was traded to Dallas, the question was who feels. I'm not saying Buddy Hield. Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers did some sick shit. But hey, that's a good one with the Warriors because that three right there with the rest of these guys playing along, it's fun when the Warriors are winning.
Yeah, you bring up Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga. I believe you mentioned that last time. The whole benching by Steve
Yeah.
thrived off the bench. Moses Moody's looked pretty good so far. And then, I think the one of the main pieces is going to be traded, unfortunately, is DeAnthony Melton. He was looking good to start the season. Unfortunately, tore his ACL. So I think he will be kind of that main piece to go in a trade alongside Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think they're going to work out a deal. Kuminga didn't get his rookie extension that everybody else did from the 2021 class. So I think he will be gone come February. As for who they could trade for, Jimmy Butler was linked to him. But one that I saw today that I found very interesting was Chicago Bulls center Nikola Vucevic.
Wow. Ooh.
Yeah. They're a team that's kind of lacking, a true center. But even as an aging veteran, Nikola Vucevic, he's had a good year so far this season. He's a big man who can kind of, space the floor. He can shoot some threes. He's definitely good in the post. But the rumor I saw, I believe it was from Jake Fisher. The Bulls were looking for, potentially 2 second-round draft picks for Vucevic. So I think that's something the Warriors could make work, and I think he would be a great fit with the Warriors.
Well, one thing for sure with the Warriors is, they're winning titles without a center because you had Kevin Durant and the Splash Brothers. First, you had Splash Brothers first without Kevin Durant, and then Kevin Durant came. But they're a team that hasn't had a true center in quite some time. The Weissman pick, Kuminga, these haven't exactly worked out for Golden State. So, yeah, I like that. I like that because I like your boy there in Chicago. I sure do. And then you got the Memphis Grizzlies, a couple of years ago, several years ago, John Morant comes in, exciting, brings the Grizzlies from nothing to something. And then he plays special stupid not once but twice. But, he paid his dues, as they say. He's back, and look at where the Memphis Grizzlies are, man. 13-7.
Yeah, the last time we had talked, the Grizzlies weren't looking as good, but they've bounced back. You got obviously John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Gigi Jackson currently out, but Scottie Pippen Jr. has been just a fantastic pickup for him. And he's one of these guys that, he may not be the number one option, but he's definitely going to be a key player on this team. And they are a piece away. I think they legitimately are a piece away. They could be a dark horse in the West this season. As for who they could get, there are a couple names that I've seen just kind of floating around. Zach LaVine was one of them. I don't know how good of a fit that is. But the one name that's going to surprise you, and we're going to get into him later, is Zion Williamson.
We're going to get into him in a minute. Yeah. Got that right. Good Lord. It's just something with Memphis because, of course, before Jod, did the stupid shit that he did, dude, they were. I mean, that was a championship, an NBA championship caliber team. They were ready. They were their year or so away from getting there, and that just threw them off so bad. So it'd be nice to see them get back. And yeah, it would be. I looked up as Desmond Bain makes $34 million. Desmond, I ain't hating on you, bro, but I think you overpaid.
Yeah, I think for the right player, he might be one of those stars that has to be moved. But
Yeah, and we'll talk about the rookie there, Zach Edey, in just a few minutes, that's for sure. But good stuff going on here. This, of course, is the NGSC Sports NBA show. We're talking about the first month in the NBA. We talked about the winners and losers of the first month. We talked about the panic meter, some of the teams that, they got their hands real close to hitting that panic meter button. We talked about teams that move away from contention, which we just finished right here with the Rockets, the Warriors, and Grizzlies. We talked about how, again, the Cleveland Cavaliers, great start to a season. Cleveland fan, don't get too excited right now. Okay, chill. It's 20 games in, 62 games to go. You started 17-3. You can easily go 5-15 in the next 20. That's why they play the games, right? So, of course, one of the things we love to do, one of our regular topics here, segments here on the show, is around the NBA, and we take this moment, this moment, we're going to have a whole lot of moments. We take this time to go around the NBA, the news in the NBA, the stuff that Jay and I have seen. If you're out there, if you're watching the show, you want to talk about something, bring it up. Except now we're going to talk about, I've been waiting to get to this point right here. Jay asked the question, is it time for the Pelicans to give up on Zion? You know what, Jay? I know it's stupid what I'm about to say, but here, let me answer that question for you. Everybody should give up on Zion. Send his ass to Europe. He can go play in one of the. You watch this boy and then turn into a young man in college, man, a monster. Man, he was waiting to come out. I wanted Zion in New York so bad, and I heard that report recently about Zion supposedly said he wishes he would have been in New York, and maybe when you were coming out of college, bro, but we don't want you now. We don't want you now. I don't understand. You know what I said, Jay, before I give it to you? And we talked about this a couple of years ago. I wondered, because there was a question, when the Pelicans drafted him, the family about they weren't feeling New Orleans and whatever. But my thing always was, because you don't always get drafted by the team you hope to play for. And what's worse is sometimes, or a lot of times, you get drafted by a team you damn sure didn't want to play for. And I think Zion never wanted to play in New Orleans. I just think he never wanted to play that. I wish New Orleans would just tell him, look, bro, we done paid you all this money, you ain't done shit. Go ahead, go, bye.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. Kind of going back to just his time at Duke, he was probably the most hyped, draft pick since LeBron.
Yes.
The hype for him was just
Zion, man. Zion, he was a monster.
And he has a slow start to this. I believe it was the 2019-20 season. Misses like the first chunk of games. Comes back. I believe maybe it was like January or something like that. The season ends not too long after. Going through the next couple seasons, he plays maybe 20, 25 games, gets hurt again. And it's just this ongoing thing with Zion. And it's gotten to the point where it's definitely played into the contract that he has. I believe looking at it, he signed a 5-year, $197 million extension ahead of the 2023-24 season. Okay. So due to a games played clause, it is 50% guaranteed this season, fully guaranteed on January 7th. And the next 3 seasons after that, it is not guaranteed. So at any point, the Pelicans could realistically cut him. Will they do that? I highly doubt that.
I would highly doubt that, but that would be a hell of a money saving move for them. That's for sure.
Right. But at this point, he doesn't play. He's played a handful of games. Let's see. For his career, he has played 190 games, I believe. And that is across
4 seasons?
I believe 5. I think.
5? No. Hold up, man. Nah. Man, don't tell me that. Wait a minute. Where's Zion play? New Orleans. No.
Well, technically 6 seasons, including the 2021-22.
Oh, stop, Jay. Stop it. I'm going to quit right now on the show. Don't do that, Jay. Hold up. Zion, no. Hold on, Jay. Hold on. Nah, now you got me. Duke. But when? Hold on. Wait a minute now. Holy shit. Because I know you're right. I know you're right. I just don't want to. 2019 draft. 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 20.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That's 30 games a year.
Yeah. I mean, he's had 2 seasons where he's played more than 60 games. Okay. The other seasons, 29 games in the 22-23 season, 24 is rookie season, and 6 so far this season. He's out with a hamstring injury right now. It's definitely shocking to see. You have the recent developments with with his agent, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see something coming. I'm not sure if it's going to be them trading him requesting a trade, but I don't think Zion's going to be in New Orleans much longer.
And you know what's going to happen, right? Wherever he go, especially if he go where he want to go, then he going to blow up and show what we all know he could do, which is why it pisses me off because I get tired of, I don't want to say it like that, players that do this, okay? You know how good you are. You know how good you could be. And you have basically shitted away 6 NBA seasons getting paid all this money. Like, that is such an injustice. I mean, to the team, to the league, to the game.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I feel like that's too often it happens in New Orleans. You have Chris Paul getting his way out in the early 2010s. You have AD getting his way out in before the 2018-19 season. Or no, the 1920 season. And now you have Zion. And Brandon Ingram's going to be out too. So it's unfortunate, but it seems to be the theme in New Orleans.
They must be all going to the same damn club. I mean, damn. It's just, like I said, how you going to be that talented? Now, listen, don't get me wrong. I can't control it if Zion winds up in New York. I don't want him there. But if he gets there and then he plays the way he's supposed to, then fine. But it's not going to change the fact, Zion, that your career, let's just say, wherever he goes, he then has a very successful rest of his NBA career. Bro, you're always going to be remembered for those first 6 years when you didn't do shit. And you got paid and you cried every time your stomach hurt. So it's like, to me, it's always been obvious, Jake. He didn't want to play that. He just didn't want to play that. And that's fine. I just wish it, anyway. Nothing he can do, right? He got paid. I ain't gonna say no for the check. I'm gonna catch the A.
Right. Sure. He'll just do what these other superstars have done, get the money, and then request a trade.
Right.
It's gonna happen at some point.
Yeah, for me, it's like keep the money coming. Keep the money coming. I might keep the baby. All right. Around the NBA. There's some rookies balling, okay? And not the guys that were picked at the top. Alexander Sarr and the rest of you guys, listen. You got a lot of work to do. You know what we didn't bring up since we talking about rookies?
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you about one rookie that's not balling, and I'm about tired of this situation. I wish I would have told you up front. Hey, for all of you watching, thank you for watching. This is the NBA show and NGSC Sports. You got questions, you got comments, you don't like what we're saying, check us. We don't mind. Jay, I don't know if you need to call the league officers yourself and tell them, listen, this is Jordan Reed from NGSC Sport. Who? What? Never mind. That's not important. Tell them you got to ask them a question. Can somebody call LeBron James, pull him over to the side and say, listen, dude, you're doing damage to your kid. You're doing a lot of damage to your kid. Because, listen, I'm trying to be serious, Jordan. I'm trying to be serious, Jay. Yo, Bronny, he can't even play in the G League, man. He can't even ball. They making this boy look like a high school basketball player in the G League. And I don't even know what to say. This is what I was afraid of. This is what I told you what I was afraid of. Because at least, Jay, I didn't know how he was going to do.
Right.
At least if, say, the boy's averaging, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 points a night, a couple of rebounds, just, a bad night here and there. Oh, he had 17 points and 8 rebounds a night. He ain't done jack. Nothing.
Yeah, no, it's been an ugly for him. I really don't even know what much you can say about this situation. I mean, it all basically goes back to LeBron. Just the way things have gone. Should he even be in the league? No, he should still be in college, developing his game.
Right.
Just to be a better player. I mean,
I don't even know if he honed his game for 4 years at USC, if he would be a damn NBA player.
Right. I mean, maybe the best potential, after 4 years of school, he may be, a solid role player for a team. But all the spotlights on him, it's pretty much all negative spotlight at this point with all the news that comes out. And, Bronny's doesn't have to play on the road because we're afraid people are going to bombard him at airports and on planes and this and that. And it's like, okay, I guess that's reasonable, but you can definitely tell there's special treatment there, and that's not right, especially when you look at some of these other second round draft picks. A lot of them are on 2-way deals. A lot of them don't even play in the NBA. So you get this kid, the son of one of the greatest basketball players of all time, gets a 4-year guaranteed deal. He has not looked good, and that's probably about the nicest way I could put it. So it definitely needs to do something, and it revolves around getting away from LeBron.
You know that all the teams in the G League, whether collectively and or individually, before he finally went down, they said in the locker room, when he comes down here, we're gonna show him. And they showing him, and they are schooling him. I'm watching some highlights, man, and I feel so bad because he's getting schooled.
Oh yeah, he has a target on his back, and it's not necessarily his fault, but it's how it is.
It's all on his daddy.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any better.
But back to rookies balling. Rookies balling. We talked about Philadelphia 76ers, right? Tyrese Maxey. Paul George is hurt. Maxey got hurt. Embiid came there, blah, blah, blah. And they're having a really bad year. But they got a kid named Jared McCain. Remember, I was just mentioning y'all top picks in this past NBA draft. Y'all didn't see Jared McCain coming. 76ers didn't see Jared McCain coming. The NBA didn't see Jared McCain. God damn sure did not see Jared McCain coming. And he maintains the top spot on the NBA Kia rookie ladder. And rightfully so. I mean, the kid has just been, so where's he at? He's averaging almost 17 points a game, 2 rebounds, almost 3 assists. And he's just brought something to the city. Without him, they might have won just one game. And remember, they've only won 3.
It's funny. there was a clip going around on social media. I believe Paul George's podcast. This might have been early last week, but they were talking about the locker room incident, and he had mentioned Jared McCain, and he said something along the lines of he shouldn't be our best player right now. And that speaks volumes, not only on the 76ers, but just how good Jared McCain has been so far. And he may be the steal of the draft. I know there's some other rookies we may mention who could fall in that steal category, but Jared McCain is definitely a steal.
Yeah, he's been a good steal. Another guy, when you go to Minnesota, you think right away, you always think of the top pick being, of course, Zach Edey out of Purdue. And Edey's had a nice rookie campaign so far, definitely making a contribution to the Memphis Grizzlies. But another guy that's like, what? Jalen Wells. Hey, that boy, who he playing some number 2. He's rather the number 39 pick in the draft, and just Marcus Smart hasn't been able to contribute the way they want, and this kid has been able to produce here for Memphis.
Yeah, another one of those surprises that comes out of this second round. The expectations are typically low for second round players, but Jalen Wells has been a genuine surprise for the Grizzlies. I think he's kind of eased himself into the rotation, but he's definitely made an impact so far. Especially, you've had Ja out for a little bit, as you mentioned. Marcus Smart really hasn't been the player we know him to be. So Jalen Wells is definitely a surprise so far.
And my other rookie baller, I watched him here at the University of Tennessee. Hey, yo, Jay, Dalton freaking Connect. hey, that the movie White Boys Can't Jump, right? Well, this white boy can shoot. I'm talking about I watched him here. This boy put up 17, 18, 20 so quick. And I watched highlights of that 37-point game in LA. And now rumors have it that he's the third option in LA.
He's been very surprising so far this season. I think I don't want to give him credit. I think LeBron said it best when, he kind of, found it funny how Connect fell all the way to the Lakers, I believe, at 17th overall, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been a genuine surprise. He's a great three-point shooter so far. I believe he just averaged a career high, like 37 points maybe a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, on that team, they could definitely use a guy like him. Another shooter, someone who can space the floor, someone who is quickly building that trust with LeBron. And as you mentioned, he's already kind of getting that vibe as a third option. When you got guys like Austin Reeves, who's been there for a couple of years.
Another guy who
right.
Hey,
Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell. Connect is quickly overshadowing a lot of them. And he may be a foundational piece for, I would say, the Lakers era after LeBron. Connect and AD together would be a great duo.
Damn.
But
yeah, that's not bad, Jay. That's not bad. And a guy who's a rookie bowling. I had him on here. Where was he? Oh, did I have somebody I missed? Oh yeah, no, I missed Stephen Castle in San Antonio. Yeah, Stephen Castle's been playing good ball in San Antonio. And by the way, just real quick about San Antonio, I mentioned earlier that with Embiid, of course, being a 7-footer, and 7-footers games are limited. They're limited to low post games. They're limited to, pick and roll. They're limited to, some players, 7-footers who can shoot an outside shot. Not going to find many athletic 7-footers that can run the floor, pass the ball, dribble the ball, shoot a jump shot, shoot a fadeaway, shoot a runner, go into the corner. Oh, wait. San Antonio does have a guy named Wemby. So if I had any questions about Wemby last year, I ain't got none no more, Jay. Because, man, this guy really might be one of those generational talents.
Yeah, he had a slow start to this season, but he's definitely picking it back up. But Stephon Castle's in a really good place. You know, you got Wemby, you got your generational talent. You could put Stephon Castle right there alongside him as another kind of core piece for that next generation of the Spurs. And then you got a mentor in Chris Paul, who, as a guard, there's no better guard that you could find to be a mentor.
Your point guard. Yeah.
Exactly. And 11.5 points per game, that's pretty solid, as a rookie. And obviously with CP3 being on a 1-year deal, it's likely Stephon Castle will be taking over that starting role next season.
And CP3 is grooming already.
Right. So I think in terms of the rookies, Stephon Castle he got drafted where he was expected to be, but he's lived up to the standard he's been held at so far, with the expectations.
Yeah. It's nice to see the rookies balling. By the way, before we get to the next one, Jay will take that one. Tough knock for LaMelo Ball, man. I didn't know, Jay. So I have so much to do. I don't keep up with the stats like I used to. So I told myself, yo, go getting ready to do the show in a little while. So I'll study up a little bit. One of the things I did, of course, was go to the leaderboard. Yo, LaMelo's averaging 30 points a game.
You know what? LaMelo Ball, when healthy, he's the number one option, obviously. But he has the ability to lead a team. Okay.
Yeah.
I know the youth is a question. I know he said a lot of, stupid things on the court, off the court. But when this guy is on the court, he makes his teammates better, and he is just thriving right now. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of these highlights, but he is making absolutely stupid shots. It is crazy.
Oh, man, I know. And I was seeing what you were saying, watching film on him. The part you said about making players around him better. He has such a focus on that to involve his teammates, hence his assists. But I knew that he could score, but damn, dude, I didn't know he could score like this.
I saw something interesting the other day regarding LaMelo Ball. I believe it might have been a video where this person said that LaMelo Ball is what Lonzo could have become if healthy. And I'm not entirely sure on that. Lonzo is a great distributor, great defender, great shooter, but there's just something about LaMelo that makes him stand out in terms of just both his character and ability on the court. So I think I don't think Charlotte's going to go far, in all honesty, but LaMelo is a talent that you have to watch. It's just highlight after highlight, and I think at some point he will get to a team that will be a serious playoff contender.
Just like for these brothers to be healthy and play ball for a while, just so we could see the whole package, like Lonzo. Well, what do we have on? We barely got film on Lonzo. I mean, old film, but
that's true. Lonzo did come back though from a wrist sprain. I believe he played 20-ish minutes against the Orlando Magic. So
okay,
Lonzo. It's good to make up a little bit, but
let's see. Then let's see what that brings then. And Jay got the Kia ladder MVP watch there. What you got there?
So looking at the Kia MVP ladder, this was from yesterday. Starting at number 5, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Oklahoma City Thunder. His stats: 29.5 points per game, 6.4 assists, and 1.7 steals. Last season, he finished second in MVP voting, and they currently hold the number 1 seed in the West. It's a tough question of, is the team too good for Shai to win MVP? I'm going to mention this topic with someone else later in the MVP ladder, but the team is just dominating. You have guys like, Chet Holmgren. Unfortunately, he's out right now, but that's another guy when you have alongside SGA. The two are just dominant. You have Jalen Williams, who's looking like a first-time All-Star, in addition. So you kind of have a big three. They're not true superstars yet, all three of them, but
Right.
the expectations were already high for the Thunder going into the season. So is 5 a realistic ranking for him right now? I would say so. I think, he didn't win it last year as a top seed. It's probably going to be a lot harder for him to win it this season as well.
Yeah. And the competition, first of all. Well, no, keep going. It's your list, man. I mean, I'll say real quick about SGA. It's such a pleasure to watch him and stuff, but he need. Yeah, 5. I don't know. 5. I don't know if I put him at 4.
He's gotten a lot of criticism as being a free throw merchant, so I think that may play into it.
Okay,
he's one of those guys like Embiid who you see at the line way too much. But number 4, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo, 32.4 points per game, 11.9 rebounds, 6.4 assists per game, and I believe the Bucks are just about 500. I believe. Let me double check.
I have to check and see.
Yeah, 9-9 right now.
Okay. They started 2-8.
Exactly. Another team that had a horrible start to the season. I believe they had like a 6 or 7 game win streak there. But, Giannis has kind of been at the same level the last handful of years. And after those 2 MVPs, he hasn't won anything. Other than, obviously other than a championship. But, you have Damian Lillard alongside you. The expectations are high. And even giving the horrible end to their season last year and the horrible start this season, I don't see him winning the MVP. He's just one of those players that you could almost say he's too good to win MVP. He doesn't need it.
I'm like, with Giannis, it's like, how could you not put his name in the top 5? But if I had to take a name out of the top 5, I would take Giannis's name out, only because of the fact that you've got Damian Lillard beside you, and you started 2-8. Your team is 9-9. And for me, when you mention the MVP conversation, even in the first month of the season, it's because your team has done something. Your team is winning, and you're a big reason why. You already know Giannis is going to put the ball in the hole. He's going to score 30 points a game. He's going to do that if he's got the flu, if he's sick, if he have dead, he can put in 30. I don't know. I guess you got to put him there.
Right. Okay. So at 3rd, we have Anthony Davis. 29.2 points per game, 11.5 rebounds per game, 1.9 blocks. The team is currently 11-8. Just a little bit over 500. They are the 6th seed. He had a strong start to the season that can't be denied. He looked like an MVP contender, but the stats have dropped off just a little bit. And what NBA.com has to say, he had a humbling matchup against Jokic last week where he shot poorly, scored just 14 points, and delivered his first substandard game of the season in a loss to the Nuggets. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. The Lakers they're not as good as they were at the start of the season. I think there was a lot of hype. Everybody was, healthy to start off, but they're just not looking like the team they were. And I think everything's kind of coming back down to reality. AD, if healthy, yeah, I see him as a legitimate MVP contender in the right situation, but this is still the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James is still there.
Yeah.
He's injured often. So there's a compelling case, but I don't see him winning the MVP either.
You got to put AD in the conversation when this guy's healthy. Holy moly.
Right.
He's a beast.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would put him in Defensive Player of the Year conversation as well. I think
in the first month of the season, it is fair to put Anthony Davis. Definitely, I like his spot at number 3.
Stats are
in
good.
The MVP conversation, but of course, get ready, folks, because that won't last long. Because eventually, AD's gonna trip over his own foot. He's gonna stub his toe. He's gonna clip his finger with a paper clip, and he's gonna be out for 6 to 8 weeks. It just happened. But we're talking about the first month, and yes,
right.
Monster numbers.
So number 2, I would say 2 and 1. Most NBA fans aren't going to like. So number 2, we have Jason Tatum. 28.4 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, 5.8 assists per game. They're one of the best teams in the East. They were the best team in the East last year, and Jason Tatum didn't win it. Okay. He's not going to win it this year, if we're being realistic. Okay. The team is just too damn good. Okay. You got Jaylen Brown, you got Kristaps Porzingis, you have basically some of the best role players in the league.
Mm-hmm.
This team is pretty much steamrolling through much of their competition. And for Jason Tatum, if he was on another team putting up these stats, yeah, he would be a legitimate MVP contender.
Yeah.
When you're on a team that's just that good, it's not going to help your case.
And again, like I said, the same thing with AD. You got to put Jason Tatum on the list. But you brought up a great point I didn't think about. He won an NBA title last year, and he won the MVP last year.
Right.
Which takes us to number one, which is
everybody's favorite big man, Nikola Jokic, averaging a triple-double, 29.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds per game, and 10.6 assists per game. They currently hold a 10-7 record and are fifth in the Western Conference. You know, voter fatigue is going to take over. Okay. It would take an absolute miracle for Nikola Jokic to win a fourth MVP in 5 seasons. You know, they are 5 games out of first place. It's possible to get back into first, but they just don't have a good enough team around Jokic. The reason his stats are so good is because he's carrying that team. You know, Jamal Murray has not looked like the player he was, you know, at the beginning of last season. Michael Porter Jr. has kind of fallen off. Aaron Gordon, I believe, is still out. So they do have a lot to do, you know, in terms of just kind of getting back into true championship contention. But Jokic is carrying them all the way.
Yeah, they look like a juggernaut. Yeah, they look like a juggernaut winning their title 2 years ago.
Right. And at this point, the case for the MVP is so difficult to make because some seasons it's, okay, who has the best narrative? Who is the best player on the best team record-wise? But the, I guess you could say the qualifications for MVP contention change yearly. And as I mentioned, 3 MVPs in 4 seasons, there's no way he could win unless it's an absolute miracle of a season.
I didn't think he was going to win this many already. So who knows? But another thing you said right there, look at this list right here. Nikola Jokic, okay, playing on the Denver Nugget team that's just a few games over 500. Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, playing on a team, well, they're 16-3, and they're supposed to be 16-3. And like you said, he's got others around him. Anthony Davis on the Los Angeles Lakers team, again, a team barely above 500. Giannis is a team that is 500. The only guy on this list right here, except for Jason Tatum, remember that Jason Tatum is surrounded with Jaylen Brown and all this, SGA. And SGA is number 5. And I'm like, yo, move that boy up.
Okay. Real quick. I do want to mention they do have the next 5 in order.
Right.
Kevin Durant, Phoenix Suns. Could you make an argument for KD?
No, I can't. No.
Number 7, Victor Wembanyama.
You can't, but boy, it's going to be fun watching the case be made because if he can continue, because think before you go next. One of the biggest things for me, I'm saying just for me, to be considered an MVP in any sport in any league is the effect that you have on your team, meaning the winning effect, the improving yourself, improving others, making yourself and your team better. Damn, Wembanyama, I'm gonna fix that mold.
Number 8, we have Donovan Mitchell. I think a case could be made, you know, best player on the best team in the East, at least.
Right, but that's it.
Right, but I think the stats are going to come down at some point. The Cavs are going to, you know, kind of step out to reality, you know.
Unless the Cavs season continues like this, and then that boy going to move up the ladder quick.
I mean, they still got a lot of contenders to play against, but we'll see what happens.
Right. Oh, no, we don't expect it to happen. I think we know
Number 9, we have Stephen Curry. Uh, I think if this was maybe the first 5-10 games of the season, yeah, you can make a great case for him as MVP. I think he's still putting up those numbers in that realm, but it's just he's another player where you don't necessarily need an MVP. Yeah,
An MVP always in our hearts, but an
exactly.
MVP in the NBA no more. Though
Right.
great.
And number 10, we have LaMelo Ball, which I find very surprising.
Why?
You know, well, the stats, first of all, the stats are good. But you look at the Charlotte Hornets, they are 6-13. They're 12th in the Eastern Conference. I believe the last low MVP to win was Russell Westbrook, I believe.
Right. Russell Westbrook, right?
Yeah, I believe it was Russell Westbrook. I believe they were like the 6th seed. LaMelo's great, but he's not carrying this team into the playoffs.
They're 6-13. You shouldn't be mentioned in any MVP conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You
should. Put him on a contender. Yeah, he'll be an MVP contention. But
it goes to show what you were talking about the definition of MVP seeming to change, because usually best player, best team, best player that improves his team, or sometimes just a stat line. And we know LaMelo Ball, and you are a hell of a player. He's just a stat line MVP choice. That's all he is.
Right. But realistically, of these 10, is the MVP in there? I would say yes. I think one of these guys will be MVP. Do I know who? It's too difficult to say, but I think there is a case, at least for some of these players, whether
like I said, if the Cleveland Cavaliers somehow, after 50 games are like 40-10, after 70 games, these guys are like freaking, 55-15, 59-11. Then Donovan Mitchell's going to fly up that ladder. But I don't see the top moving too much. As far as the Kia MVP ladder, because you got Kevin Durant at number 6, and I don't see Durant rising.
No, I think at least 4 of these top 5 players will be in the MVP conversation for the majority of the season.
Before we finish the MVP talk, I got an MVP question. Mm-hmm. How does Victor Wembanyama win the MVP? We know they're not winning no championship. We know they may not. I'm not going to say they might not make the playoffs, because they might. How does he win the MVP?
Okay, so they're currently 10th in the West. I think if you could put up a stat line, you got to score probably at least 27, 28 points. I think if you do that, you get into the playoffs, at least make it into the first round. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. I think it will show just how great a player that Victor Wembanyama is, given the roster they have.
And the Spurs are going to have to win, 45, 6, 7, 8. They're going to have to win some games too, for him to be considered. So it's going to have to be a hell of a turnaround. But
if he doesn't win this season, he's absolutely going to be in the MVP conversation for years to come.
Man, for years to come. If he stays healthy, if that boy gains weight,
he'll be an absolute menace in the NBA.
Oh my God, he would be crazy. So we get to that point, one of our favorite parts of the show, where we say final thoughts. And I look at Jay and I ask Jay, great show. What are your final thoughts on the evening?
You know what? I think the first quarter of the season has been really good. I think there's definitely a lot of storylines, a lot of things we weren't expecting to happen. But I'm really excited for this next 20 or so games, because by then we're going to be getting right near the trade deadline, and that's when the real conversations are going to start. We're going to see a lot of movement, I think, especially this season.
We'll have a segment when the time comes, uh, buyers and sellers. We'll find out. That's a good one, Jay, because then we got to find out who the buyers and sellers are. But first, we have to play this, as Jay said, 20 something games out before we get there and see where teams stand. That's going to be real interesting right there. My final thoughts go to my New York Knickerbockers. When I look at a lineup, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Carl Anthony Towns, and who am I missing? Josh Hart. I've been looking at I look at the box scores, whatever games I don't watch, and even when I watch them the next day, I look at the box scores. Constantly seeing the starting five in double figure. Mikal Bridges now is on a little funk right now, not playing too well. His teammates are patting him on the back, telling him it's going to be okay. But this tandem of Brunson and Towns right now, working the pick and roll sometimes to perfection. The effect that Carl Anthony Towns is having, first of all, he's having a fucking monster season. And Jalen Brunson is being overshadowed by what Cat's doing, and Brunson's pulling up a hell of a season. And Josh Hart is fucking triple double waiting every single night. OG Anunoby puts up 40 the other night. I was like, hold up, I didn't know this dude could score like this. It's a fucking 12-point scorer, 10 points. Guy puts up 40. He's a defense machine. Yes, New York Knicks fans, rocky start. One of the things that let me tell you, if you don't have chemistry, you will never win an NBA championship. You'll never win an NBA. You'll never win an NFL championship, a World Series, a Stanley Cup. Just pick it. If your team doesn't have chemistry, you can just forget a championship. You better hope you get that shit together. Meaning, I see this team. I see Jay on those nights where they just click. I'm looking at my Knicks. They got 135 points, 145 points, 139 points, 132 points, 123 points. I say, damn, this team can score. I'm just waiting, as Knicks fans are waiting. It will happen because of the guys that I'm not worried about Mikal Bridges at all. I don't give a damn if Mikal can't score. I want Mikal to be a lockdown defender. That's what the hell we paying you to be. You want to score on the side, go right ahead. But Mikal, we're paying you to be a lockdown defender like OG. Of course, OG put up 40. I'm waiting for the team to gel. Waiting for that chemistry to start building. Because when it happens, Jay, I'm going to have I've been waiting since 1973, okay? 1973, Jay. I've been waiting, you could say, since the 90s, the Knicks in the 80s and 90s, though they didn't win it. I've been waiting 51 years. I ain't got a lot of time left, so, just curious. And to add to the final thought around the league, it's been a fun start to the season. When you look at the NBA, right? So when you go to the NBA, what do you think of the NBA? You think of the Boston Celtics. You think of the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, you always have to throw in the storied franchise of the New York Knickerbockers. You just don't have a league without these guys. But when you look at teams and say, the Orlando Magic, the Houston Rockets, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Memphis Grizzlies, the San Antonio Spurs, it's nice to see it. It's been a good start to the season.
Good to see the youth thriving in the league.
Yeah, and that's it, because like I said at the beginning, at some point there'll be no more LeBron. Soon. There'll be no more Steph Curry. Soon after that. The stars, Kevin Durant, they're not going to be here anymore. And it is so nice to be able to look now, Jay, and say, as far as the future in the NBA, I see you. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is, of course, the NGSC Sports NBA show. Call it the NBA show now. But as soon as the WNBA starts, it'll be the NBA WNBA show. Shout out to the Boston Fleet, the PWHL Professional Women's Hockey League, started season number 2 today. NGSC Sports, of course, had the privilege of covering the Boston Fleet. And John will be in the house Tuesday or Wednesday, as they have the home opener. Remember the website, ngscsport.com, where you catch all of your current content. Believe me, Jay and I, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going to do like last year. We're going to be here. We're going to talk basketball all season long. All season long. But for Jordan Reed, I'm Rob Garcia. And as I always say every week, peace.